Tyron Smith opens a massive hole, and Turpin blows through that and runs into the end zone for his first NFL touchdown from scrimmage.
Your Dallas Cowboys are the 5th team in NFL history to open their season with a shutout of 40 or more points on the road. It is the largest shutout victory in the 63-year history of Dallas Cowboys football. What a way to open the season, 40-0, a road Sunday night win over the New York Giants. That is a statement as the Cowboys are 1-0. Zach Wolchuk alongside Bryan Broaddus. That was fun, sir.
It was fun. And, it's not too often that in the NFL that you get a game that you would call a laugher. And really from, early in this game, though, the Giants moving the football looked like a little bit of a problem, though, Zach. And then all of a sudden they had the poor snap, and it forced the field goal. And from that point on, Dallas never looked back.
Yeah.
But there was some time in this game where, defensively, if you look at the Giants, gain of 5, gain of 8, gain of 9, gain of 12, gain of 8, they were getting some positive plays here. And Dallas was scrambling a little bit. But then that 3rd and 7, you get the bad snap, and it's a loss of 14. And then Wanye Thomas with the blocked field goal. And from that point on, it was like the Giants were a completely different team. It's like, how could this happen? And then even Dallas misses the extra point. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, it's not going to be one of these games now, is it? But I know going in that I felt like that the Giants, the Cowboys maybe would go back and forth a little bit. But, man, that one play just seemed to just turn the whole game around. The blocked field goal. And it just kind of gave Dallas a little bit like we knew going into the game that the Giants were suspect on their offensive line. We didn't realize they were that suspect. Really across the 5-man group, the Cowboys really embarrassed them. They made them a very one-dimensional team with the turnovers, the ability to score off the turnovers. So a tip of the cap to Dan Quinn and his crew tonight for setting the tone in this football game. And then Bones Fossil as well. There's some things offensively the Cowboys are going to need to do some work on to get ready next week against the Jets.
No doubt. We'll have plenty of time to dive into all that, but you're so right. That first drive, New York's moving the football, where you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh, no, their big correction this offseason. They draft Mozzie Smith. They were thinking, okay, maybe we short up the run defense. Yeah. Giants got all the way down to the Cowboy 8-yard line on that opening drive. You had the false start on Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
That put him back 5.
That was 3rd and 2 right there. 3rd and 2. Right.
Then it's 3rd and 7 at the Cowboy 13, and John Michael Schmitz, and I know a lot of our listeners follow the draft show as well.
Right.
I love John Michael Schmitz. I know you did as well.
Absolutely.
He has a unique way of how he holds the football.
No
and
laces. No
yep.
laces, yeah.
And that was something, when you were scouting him, okay, and I know training camp-wise, him and Daniel Jones were working on that, but he ends up with a bad snap, to your point, ends up losing almost 10 yards there for the Giants.
14, I think.
Yeah.
It's 14 yards
it
is what they lost.
It pins them back,
yeah.
and from that point on, it's 4th and 21 at the Dallas 27. Wanye Thomas, who started the game with his hair on fire. The dude was incredible. First ever football game. Defensively, he's getting opening snaps there. Ends up with the block. It ends up being returned by Noah Monogany, also a new player in his first debut with the Cowboys. Cowboys traded Kelvin Joseph for him. But then it was all Cowboys. It really was.
It was. And it just shows you, though, that, Dan Quinn, the defense, once they were able to settle in, then it was a much easier time for it, because then, again, you started to kind of look at, okay, they're behind. The Giants are behind, but then you started to see the pressure. You started to see more from the defense. It's kind of like, okay, hey, this is what happened. They're running the ball on us. Let's settle in. And then you get them in some situations where you had, in the next series, you had another incomplete, and it's 3rd and 10, and you get the Micah Parsons sack for 10. Now Dallas gets the ball back again, and then the opportunity, then they drive down the field and get the field goal to make it a 9-0 game. And again, from that point on, the defense, after the bad snap, the field goal, and then the 3rd down play, Parsons on that. That's right there, just kind of opened the floodgates for the pressure they were able to get.
Oh, man. I mean, and that fed right into the Cowboys' strength, which is the pass rush, to your point. As soon as you build a big lead, and the Giants came out on that second drive.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they didn't really come back and attack the Cowboys and run the football. I know you and I were looking at each other thinking, okay, that's great. They got the block field goal. They returned it for a touchdown, but your defense is coming right back on the field.
Yeah, that's what I kind of worried about that after the initial drive, that the Cowboys had to go multiple plays on that first drive of the game. And it looked like that the Giants had a little bit of footing going on there. But that just shows you how fast a game can switch and flip. But once the running game, they were able to choke the running game, then all of a sudden it became, okay, now you have to pass protect. And the Cowboys were able to pin their ears back and great job by Dan Quinn and, again, the defensive staff with some of the multiple looks that they were able to give. Guys, when you move Micah around, and I've said this on a couple different platforms during the week leading up to the game, that I think Micah is only as good as Dan Quinn. And I mean that this year, because you know that Micah has developed body armor. We've talked about that. He's also developed understanding of how to break down offensive linemen. But Dan Quinn's ability to move him around when others are keying on him. But look what it did. Moving him around allowed others to feast.
Osa, Dorrance Armstrong.
Exactly.
No doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to your
Fowler
point,
they got some pressure. Dan Quinn did a great job of putting guys in position to make plays, and they took advantage. Tank Lawrence, we talked about it pregame. Tank Lawrence playing that under tackle or 3 technique gets a pressure on Brettston there. You just got to take advantage of bad players,
of the weaknesses,
and they did that.
And you're right. The guards, the interior offensive line of the Giants was a weak point. And there was one time, I think Micah's first sack, they even were able to kick him in, match him up against their left guard. But what really stood out to me is they're able to come out that second drive. To your point about the Cowboys defense maybe being a little bit tired there, they were able to rotate and get completely fresh bodies along the defensive line. The depth that Dan Quinn has for that defense, you're now putting Mozzie out there for his first snaps. You got Neville Gallimore out there, Sam Williams, Fowler. Those guys execute. Then you can shuffle back in Micah, Tank, Armstrong. I mean, the list is endless of guys that stood out and stepped up in a big, big way.
Marquise Bell is another guy, too.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, who's this? He was 41, and now he's flipped it to be 14 the way he plays. I think Marquise Bell is taking that overshown role. I think that's what the big linebacker kind of guy. I think that's what they kind of maybe the overshown role has not left us. Maybe that's going to be what Marquise Bell is.
The team speed stood out in a big, big way. Post-game, courtesy of NBC, we had Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard talking with Melissa Stark.
Well, Dak told us this week, whenever the Cowboys play the Giants, it is a heavyweight fight. This was a total knockout. What impressed you most?
Just the discipline of our team, getting up early, staying committed to it, not getting ahead of ourselves. All 3 phases. I don't know really what I have this for. I think this belongs to the defense. These guys, offensive line, made it easy, a fun game, way to start this season off.
And this guy over here, 2 touchdowns for you, and now the #1 running back. How would you describe this win?
Man, I'm just blessed. Blessed to be back on the field, be back healthy. Grateful for the opportunity. We prepare so hard all week. We put in the work. We kill ourselves all week at practice for these moments, and then we come out and put on a show like this.
Yeah, and what was it like to have Mike McCarthy in your ear calling the plays for the first time?
It was great. Something that I look forward to. He has a great way of getting them in, keeping our tempo going, whether we're in the huddle, outside of the huddle. He knows what he wants to do. It's fun. It's fun. It's just getting started.
Just getting started. Now you head back home and you host the other New York team, the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers. You guys have had a couple of good battles. What can we expect?
Obviously, always got to respect Aaron. One of the best to do it. Know they've got a great defense, but we'll be ready. We're going to prepare our asses off this week and make sure we're ready to go.
Cowboys postgame audio brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. I loved what Dak said there. I don't know why I have this. It's probably an award that should go to the defense. Dak, 13 of 24.
Yeah, he's absolutely
143 yards.
Yeah.
Now, Tony Pollard, 14 carries, 70 yards, a couple of touchdowns, the long run at 25, average 5 yards a carry. He is now the first Cowboys running back to rush for 2 touchdowns in an opener, 4th career game with multiple rushing touchdowns, but the most recent to do it since Marion Barber back in 2008 in the opener at Cleveland. And shout out to Dak. Dak did end up passing Aaron Rodgers, or joining Aaron Rodgers, the only 2 players in NFL history to amass 25,000 passing yards and 1,500 rushing yards in their first 100 career games.
There you go.
After he had 91 passing yards in the first half. So certainly a great achievement there for Dak. But, yeah, I mean, Dak didn't need to be great. And he certainly was. And it's not the best version of Dak Prescott tonight. But the rest of the team and the way the defense played didn't put any pressure on him.
Dak doesn't have to be great if, in fact, that they're going to play defense like that every week, and you're going to get special teams plays like they've done. So, tip of the cap. The team it was well prepared this week. They did a great job. McCarthy, they practiced outdoors in some heat, humidity. Got themselves ready. Got themselves the mindset. A lot of was coming into this game that we were all worried about rust for the team because they don't play the starters. Well, defense, I wouldn't say there was no rust on the defense. They were ready to go. Offense, though, there's some things like we keep talking about that they're going to have to clean up. That they're going to need this offense next week against the Jets to show up in a big way. This is going to be a big test for them coming forward.
No question about it. And we'll get to see the Jets firsthand tomorrow night, Monday Night Football against Buffalo. We can get our scout side there. We know what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. Certainly, he's been a bit of a boogeyman for me and all Dallas Cowboy fans. 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text, 877-881-1053. I know we already got several people lined up on hold. You can also watch us on Twitch and on YouTube as the post-game party rolls on 40-0. Cowboys get the shutout victory. We're with you until 1 a.m. tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left.
Zach Wolchuk hanging out with the Super Bowl champion scout Bryan Broaddus here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Let's hit the phones, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Phone lines brought to you by WinStar, home to over 8,500 of your favorite electronic games, more than 1,000 table game seats and 1,400 luxury hotel rooms. It's always a good time at WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. I know you're chomping at the bit after week 1 and a 1-0 start. Let's head out to Robert in McKinney. Robert, you're on the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Oh, man. Jacked up after this great Cowboys win.
What do you got?
So, one, I want to praise Dan Quinn. This dude has gotten the whole defense to buy into his coaching, and they came out lit on fire the entire game. I've never seen that happen in my 30 years. And two, Dak and the offense have to find a way to finish those drives. We cannot play and get to the Super Bowl without finishing drives. You can't get to the 2-yard line and not be able to punch it in. It's ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Robert. Certainly, red zone offense, that's something we've talked about for many years. And that was disappointing when you get down into the red area and you come away with 3 instead of 7. And when you're playing against better teams, I mean, heck, maybe it happens next week against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. We'll see how they look tomorrow night. But those are certainly times where you need to cash in because your defense probably isn't going to be pitching a shutout every single week.
No, you're not. And they got the turnovers that they were able to. They were able to capitalize on the turnovers with points. With the
14 points by your defense and special teams.
Exactly. And the offense really. Maybe the weather had something to do. I'm not making excuses for anybody here, but maybe the weather had something to do with both teams. I mean, the Giants were inept, but a lot of it had to do, I think, because of Dallas's defense. The Cowboys' offense, though, I felt like though the second half when we had the halftime show in the second half. I asked for the Cowboys to come out and try and find a little rhythm. I kind of felt like that's the best that they moved the ball really all night. They open up with a pass to Gallup for 10. You had a play for 7. You had a play for 25 on a run. The tight ends, though, that's something we're probably going to need to get into. A couple of drops there as well. The screen to Pollard for 7 yards, and then they were able to kind of punch that win. But that was probably the best drive that I saw the Cowboys have on offense. It had some reason to it. It had some rhythm to it. And it had some execution to it. Other than that, though, it was kind of really just an off night for them overall.
Yeah, I mean, Dak definitely did look like there was probably a little bit of rust there. I did like, as we were looking at, the new Texas Coast offense, Mike McCarthy calling some plays. You mentioned the screen.
Yeah.
Right, Cowboys couldn't run the screen to save their life a year ago.
No, there's a parade in Frisco tomorrow.
Hell yes. Some bunch formations. The big play to CD Lamb. They're able to set up with a pick.
The unbalanced look that went for the touchdown, I thought was a good design there. There are some things that they're able to do, that they can do, that they're capable of. And again, execution I didn't think was very good tonight. And it might have been because of some of the situation with the offensive line, with some of the guys being out of the lineup, with Tyron Smith being out and then Tyler Smith being out. I think that might have had something to do, but the weather clearly, the rain was a problem for both offenses.
You did bring up the tight ends. You had the Ferguson drop on that big third down. And then, of course, Hendershot, maybe Dak's best throw of the night where he goes back
second
shoulder.
and 6, yeah.
It should have been a touchdown. Hendershot dropped that one. But overall, look, Ferguson has been pretty sure-handed throughout his career. I don't know that I'm going to overreact to just that one individual drop. but certainly in a clutch situation like that, you got to make that play.
See, that's where if you look back, those third down plays, that's where Dalton Schultz has been
very consistent.
Earned, well, he didn't earn a big payday, but you knew how consistent he was catching the ball and on third down. But I'll tell you this, though. I know on the 25-yard run that Pollard had on that drive to start the second half, it was nice block by Schoonmaker there. I mean,
Schooney and Ferguson. Ferguson was pulling there, but both tight ends did an excellent job blocking.
There you go. That's what you got to have right there for, to be able to run the football and able to make the positive yards that they were.
No doubt. Let's go out to Scott in Jersey. Scott, what's going on, my dude? You're in line too.
Yeah, he's bigger than some humans. Look at him.
Hey,
Scott,
what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Scott, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Hey, what's going on tonight? Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, how's the weather?
The weather's rainy. That doesn't matter. We hang outside no matter what.
Heck
before
yeah.
The Cowboy game. Pre-game show, Broaddus was awesome. Thanks, man. It's always good. Post-game is good. Thank you. All I want to know, my question tonight is it Cowboys this good, or is it Giants just a little not that good? That's my question tonight.
Appreciate the call, Scott. Thank you very much.
I think
Go Cowboys.
Yeah, I think the Giants on offense on their offensive line are bad.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys exploited a really bad line.
I think they've got some big issues, and they knew that coming in that it was going to be a little bit of a problem. I think the Cowboys defensively are this good though. I really do. I think they and let's be honest too. Diggs, they get the big late in the game. They get the big catch, on Diggs. But what does he do? He hammers the ball out of the receiver's hands. There were some when it seemed like whenever there was a play that was needed to be made, they were able to make the play defensively. And so I think the Cowboys are that good on defense. I think the Giants are bad on offense, especially on their offensive line. They did not. Jalen Hyatt, who I thought was going to be a vertical, and maybe again the weather had something to do with this, but Hyatt was not a factor in this game. The receivers were not a factor in this game.
No.
So you have to give the Cowboys secondary a lot of credit, but you also the pass rush. We saw the pass rush all night.
There was no time. It was a second, 2 seconds. Daniel Jones had no opportunity.
When you get the all 22, you're going to see coverage on the back end. And I think that's something that's super impressive.
Yeah, Stephon Gilmore was as advertised. Fantastic. I mean, both guys, him and Brandon Cooks in their first game as Cowboys. You saw Brandon Cooks draw the 2 penalties, had the 1 big catch downfield. Stephon Gilmore, of course, with an incredible interception. He gave up 1 play, really, and then you had the 1 period where Darren Waller kind of got going.
Right.
But otherwise, there was nothing with that Giants offense passing.
Nothing with the Giants offense passing, and a lot of it had to do with the pressure they were putting on. But the secondary, I felt like, I wish that Hooker would have been able to intercept that pass. That led to the Giants getting points, I believe, on that drive as well. So maybe they kicked the field goal, or no, they had no points. There were no points. So it was a turnover on downs. But it'd been nice if they had to run some extra. Defense had to stay out for some extra plays, is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Hooker, if he makes that interception, the defense is off the field.
Trayvon Diggs deserves some love as well. Of course, had that big hit that forced the ball to pop up. Deron Bland picks it off, runs for a touchdown, and then Diggs forcing another fumble in that fourth quarter as well. All right, let's head out to line 3. Aaron in Buffalo. Aaron, what's going on, my dude? You're on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Good.
Great,
what's
man.
going on?
Celebrate.
First thing, want to thank Chops. He won me some money tonight. And second thing is number 14, Bell. That kid came out of nowhere. He's almost like a little Overshawn.
Well, you're talking about Bell, right?
Yeah, Marquise Bell. Thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
Yeah, Bell in the preseason, if you look at the 3 preseason games, he's wearing number 41. That's where, did he show up today? But when they put him in games in the preseason, he was always the leading tackler. Like, he had double-digit tackles every game. And you're like, well, who's player of the game? And you're like, well, Marquise Bell had 10 tackles again tonight. That's where you got to give these guys a lot of credit. This is where you give Dan Quinn credit, because he's trying to figure out roles for the players that he has. The guys that he has dressed, he used his whole bench today.
He did.
He used everybody on his bench to figure things out. And I give him a lot of credit. I never worry about this defense with Dan Quinn putting players in position to make. If you're a scout and you're drafting players or bringing in players for Dan Quinn, you know Dan Quinn and those coaches are going to find roles for them.
7 sacks, 3 takeaways. They're going for their third year in a row to try and lead the NFL in takeaways. They might be able to lead the league in sacks. Last year, that was filthy inside of the division to be able to do that. But you're right. I mean, year-to-year turnover with defenses, just because you're good one year in the NFL, we've seen a bunch of times there's a drop-off. Dan Quinn in this defense, it has only gotten better and better, and the way he uses everybody and gets the most out of each individual player, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell, these are undrafted players that they identified and have found roles for within their defense that have stepped up and made plays.
Look what they did with Bland. I mean, Bland playing in coverage as well as he has, so I think this thing with Bell, I don't think Bell's a secret. I think Bell, there's guys that they're trying to figure this thing out because Overshown was going to be a big part of this. That was a big loss for them. And I know the kid has not played a regular season down, but there was a clear plan. And now they're trying to figure out, okay, who can maybe help in that role? And I think Marquise Bell is a guy you have to consider.
Well, and a scary thought is you didn't even have Donovan Wilson or Jordan Lewis tonight.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
I mean, my goodness gracious. The amount of talent on this defense.
That's why Wanye Thomas is playing in the game because of,
and those guys stepped up, no question. All right, let's hit up line 4, Randy. Randy in California. What's going on, man? You're with Zach Wolchuk and our Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus.
All right, thank you guys, Bryan. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
I love what you do during the scout season. I want to give a shout out to the special teams. It's great to see Aubrey kick because we didn't really get to see him kick during the preseason in inclement weather. That was great. The defense played immaculate. My only question is about the offense. I know they're trying to get the ball out quickly. Are you kind of concerned with the fact that some of these other teams might be sitting on routes if they're trying to get the ball out quickly? And that'll be it. Let you guys talk. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the whole offensive design is to try and get separation on the outside. And I think one of the best example of that was the route that Lamb that was 49 yards when they had Ferguson.
Ferguson picks two giant players.
Ferguson and Cooks run the inside, and then you wheel. That's where I think this offense is going to go to. I think this offense is going to turn into crossing routes, picks, things like get the ball out quick. We didn't see really much any things with the slants. Usually that's a West Coast staple with slants. I think maybe on a third down there might have been.
He hit Gallup with one that was a little bit.
Cooks got one too.
Took a big shot
on 4th and 2. Right.
Those are the two that jumped to me. I think Cooks and Gallup had 2 slants. Ball placement on the Cooks one was fine. A little behind Gallup, but those were. You're absolutely right about the slants.
Yeah. When you're this offense is going to turn into picks and rubs and things like that,
which is something I didn't think the Cowboys were capable of doing until this year.
That was a great job with that ability to get that done. Tonight with that big play to Lamb.
All right, let's head out to Albuquerque. We got our guy Billy on line 5. Billy, what's going on? You're on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for taking the call. Love the Cowboys. Been a fan my entire life. Really excited to see us start this season this way. I mean, the defense is impressive. We expected a lot, especially after getting Gilmore in that secondary, hoping that he and Diggs can kind of really outshine everybody else. It's hard with Micah Parsons on that defense, and I think he only had 1 sack tonight, but he had so many pressures, and he had quarterback hits, and him just being on the field and pushing up, and sure, as you said, the Giants' offensive line isn't the best, but I'm pretty excited. A 40-0 shutout it's a huge statement, especially after what the Niners did today in Pittsburgh. So really excited about that. I'm wondering, what do we see? If we can handle the Jets, or even if, Aaron Rodgers makes really good decisions in press time. So I'm thinking if we can handle the Jets, we can beat the Cardinals. I mean, are we looking at maybe a 3-1, 4-0 start before we have to go out there and see the Niners?
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Billy. What do you think?
Man, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Jets do against the Bills tomorrow night. I'm looking to see because the one thing I know about the Jets is they're good on defense.
Very good.
They were a team last year that they were in so many games where it was a 10-6 game.
They'll challenge the Cowboys' offensive line in a way they weren't challenged tonight.
Absolutely, they will. And I felt like the inside players, the Cowboys inside Adoga. I'm looking forward to seeing the All-22 as well because I want to see Adoga and him and Smith and how they played together. It was good to see them. That there weren't any major problems inside. There weren't anything that there was one time where Broaddus got rocked where he got
Dexter Lawrence was able to get him.
was able to get him. But other than that, I think everything was pretty good. the Jets will be a huge test.
No doubt. And certainly the Giants don't have a receiver the caliber of a Garrett Wilson.
No.
And we know what Aaron Rodgers has done at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see them tomorrow, scout them a little bit. But it'll certainly be – you're playing against a much more talented quarterback next week. There's no doubt about that.
What the thing you would worry about is a letdown if you went to Arizona. Say you were to find a way to win, against the Jets, and then now you have to go to Arizona.
Well, Arizona competed today against Washington.
They absolutely competed today. And so maybe that's not going to be as bad as a team. I'll tell you the most surprising win for me today was Rams at Seattle.
Yeah.
That was the one that got my attention. I did not think the Rams would go in there and beat Seattle today, but they did.
No, I did not either. All right, we're going to talk with the voice of your Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham. We'll take more of your calls and texts as well, 877-881-1053 on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. We'll also hear from Mike McCarthy and your quarterback, Dak Prescott. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
At Jigsaw Dating,
That was the slot receiver, Adoree Jackson, and Lamb just put him in the slot.
Beautiful play there by CeeDee Lamb as the Cowboys shut out the Giants 40-0 as they are 1-0 to start the 2023 season. About to catch up with the voice of your Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham. But right now, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan. Hello, baby. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, hanging out with you on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys after a 40-0 win. Let's welcome in the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham. Brad, how are you, sir? And the big question that I know Bryan and I were asking ourselves after a complete team win like that, who would you give the player of the game ball to?
Wow. That's a good one. I might want to say Noah Igbenogany.
Ooh.
And the reason I might want to say it is I was so totally unable to say it when he recovered the blocked field goal. I practiced for a week.
Yeah.
I just texted my son. I practiced for a week saying Noah Igbenogany. And when I had to say it under pressure, I got a mouthful of marbles. I can't even imagine what that came out like. You know, it's a great question, Zach, because you could say Parsons, who set the tone defensively really almost from the get-go, from the first time they were on the field. I wouldn't have a problem with you saying Gilmore, who had a breakup, at least one. No, I'm sorry. He had at least 3 breakups.
Yes.
And a ridiculous interception. Yeah. There are, I think there are a few of those defensive players that you could pick. Wanye Thomas had a heck of a game. Blocked field goal and came out in the first defensive possession after that and broke up a pass. I think when you get a route like that, I would either say probably either Parsons or Gilmore, even though Parsons just had the 1 sack. He just set the tone, and the Giants didn't have any fighting them after that.
Brad, you're a historian of this franchise. I've seen a lot of this. Have you seen a coach on defense that uses everybody on his bench the way that Dan Quinn does?
Oh, no, never. Because, in the olden days, as you well recall, Bryan, you grew up a fan watching them and then, working in the league. A lot of coaches still had the 3-year rule.
Right.
Whether it was offense or defense, you couldn't get them on the field. And then it was only in spot situations. And there weren't, people won't remember this, but once upon a time there were hardly any nickel defenses. There were no sub packages to speak of. You just lined guys up and played. Then as we got into the 80s and the 90s, the 90s especially, Jimmy did a pretty good job of using a lot of different guys. Now, I thought Jimmy Johnson helped revolutionize the way the game's played in the NFL, the way he used his defensive linemen, because nobody was rotating so many people the way Jimmy did at that time, and I thought it had a big deal to do with their resurgence in 91 and 92 especially. But I don't know if he used all of them on the field, but, I mean, Quinn just does such a good job of figuring out where they should have. But while we're saying that, we also should point out that there was, and this I don't remember happening, there was a time in the second quarter when every offensive player besides the backup offensive lineman had been in the game.
Yeah.
And that's equally remarkable. So I just think the whole staff is doing a good job of adjusting to the way the game's played now.
Brad, we were speaking of the offensive side of the ball, though. I liked a couple of wrinkles of creativity. I liked the pick route that got CeeDee Lamb the 49-yard catch. I liked the unbalanced line that got Pollard the touchdown. These are things that I'm kind of like, all right, someone's paying attention over there on offense to things that, trying to, again, maybe get your guys in position to make positive plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's McCarthy and Schottenheimer. And those are 2 great examples. And they're going to be doing, just think, we never see anything preseason. We know that.
Right.
And then they're not going to show you everything in the first game. And then once the game gets prohibitive, I mean, I think that unbalanced line you're talking about was on Pollard's first touchdown run. If I'm
right,
not
the toss that went to the toss. Yes, yeah.
So then you never saw it again because you didn't need to.
Right.
Then you just go play. So yeah, I think it's a great point, and it only makes you wonder what else he's got.
You mentioned Gilmore, who was brilliant. The other key addition this offseason, Brandon Cooks, drew 2 penalties as well as had the big catch downfield. What stood out to you about his debut?
He's a real lid lifter, as they say. He takes the top off the defense. So, he drew that penalty because of his speed and ability to get otherwise open. And I really, watching him in camp, Zach, I thought, I didn't know this guy was this good a route runner. He's very smooth. And I think as time goes along and they kind of settle into their offense, we're going to see him do a lot of different versatile things. He really catches the ball well.
Certainly weather. It was a wet night. We saw that maybe with some of the balls that were squirting out, especially with Daniel Jones. But the kicking situation, I think everybody had their eye on. Brandon Aubrey missed the first PAT, but bounced back nicely. What'd you think of Aubrey?
Loved him. Loved everything about him. Every kickoff, and we've seen this all preseason. I mean, it's not even a question. Most of them go out of the back, and he did miss the first PAT, but it doesn't rattle him. He's really, I don't know. I don't want to compare him to people, but Dan Bailey kind of comes to mind.
Sure.
And
mental makeup, yeah.
Yeah, remember Dan missed that in his rookie year. He won a battle of about 5 kickers. And then he came out and they had a game early in the year and he missed a 21-yard field goal in San Francisco, and everybody thought, oh.
Yeah.
And then I don't think he missed again for 6 years. So I do like the fact that his makeup is exactly what you want. And how about this, Zach? Now think about what we're saying. This is the 3rd time he's been a professional rookie.
Wow.
I mean, you can't say that very often.
No.
But he was a rookie when he played in MLS for Toronto, and then he was a rookie in the USFL. Mm-hmm. And now at the age of 28, he's a rookie in the NFL. So, and he just got he's got the right makeup. He'll miss some, but I think that you saw how he responded. He made everything else, made all the extra points. I wouldn't be afraid to, the test will really come, and I think he's got both the makeup and the ability. But when they need those 44-yarders, that's where the real test comes. But I think that he's got the stuff to be able to fight through whatever and give him that. I liked him tonight.
Brad, this Cowboys pass rush, and they made the Giants very one-dimensional by the way that they played. But is it going in, we kind of had an idea that the Giants were going to potentially struggle. The Cowboys, are the Cowboys that good rushing the passer, or is the Giants' offensive line just that suspect?
Well, I don't think they'll look that good rushing the passer every week. You can't. But I think a couple of things we did see is, first of all, let's take your question, Bryan, in reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they got a rookie center.
Sure.
His first game. So give him a little time. There's reasons to like him. The guards are just guys.
Right.
Better than some, worse than others. The right tackle is the big guy because he's the guy they abused. DeMarcus Lawrence abused him so bad last year.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he had a very good game.
No, not at all.
And, the left tackle is a pretty good player, but if I'm them, I'm worried a little bit about the right tackle. And I think that you just have to know what you are there in the middle. Your guards are just kind of average. Now, are the Cowboys that good? They'll come up against some really good offensive lines, and they won't put as much pressure on, and they won't get through that way. And that's why from behind the front four, that's where we're going to find out what those guys are made of. But this is what they've done for the last 2 or 3 years. When they get you in a situation where you have to pass block, you know what's coming, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, they're relentless, and I'll tell you, Parsons is something now.
Yes,
unreal.
I said one time, and I think it was on his sack. I have to locate the ball, and I have to follow the ball and say where the ball goes. But when they're on defense in a situation like that, what I want to do is find Parsons, what the quarterback's doing.
Right.
Find Parsons. Where is he? Okay, I see him. He's at left tackle. And I want to tell the audience that. I want the audience, because they want to know, where is he? Okay, he's at left tackle. Okay, now I located him. Now I've got to figure out a way to watch both the ball and him. And so, fortunately, on that play, he just went through the guy like soup.
He did,
and came crashing in. It was just, it's just his combination of strength, power, speed, and quickness are really rare. But we know this about him, but that doesn't make it any less amazing to watch. And then when you got a guy like Lawrence and Odighi's, who is a good player, and Armstrong's a good. Now you got all these guys. They feed off that guy. So it's fun to watch, and I think that's one of the reasons they'll be in a lot of games.
Yeah, Micah is rare. He is special, as are you, sir. Have a safe flight home. We always enjoy getting to catch up with you after these post games, and we'll do it again next week after the Jets game.
We will indeed.
There he goes, Brad Sham, the voice of your Dallas Cowboys here on the official post game show on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Brad, brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org and AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of your Dallas Cowboys. 40-0. Cowboys get the win over the Giants. Dak Prescott has now won 11 consecutive games against the Giants. Only other Cowboy quarterback to do that, Roger the Dodger, Roger Staubach, who, of course, accomplished that.
I was at a few of those.
Hall of Fame career. Yeah, I'm sure. What a treat that must have been watching him.
Yeah. The Giants back in that day, they blocked about like how they did today. Yeah, there were some not good Giant teams when Roger was going after him.
We will hear from Coach McCarthy, Dak Prescott, Osa Odighizuwa, plus more of your calls and texts, 877-881-1053. The post-game celebration rolls on. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
We know that juicy, cheesy grilled.
your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
2nd and 10. Parsons bringing 3 defenders back, and that'll let Odigizua sack Jones back at the 21. Osa Odigizua gets the 4th Cowboys sack. There should be an assist. There should be a statistic for Micah Parsons. He carried 2.5 blockers back into the area, and that let Odigizua just run free.
Micah literally tackled on that play. I mean, you could probably call holding when people are trying to block Micah all the time. He's so right. Osa with 2 sacks, and he was brilliant. A lot of it has to do with the attention that Micah gets. And Bryan, that actually leads to a great point. We've gotten several questions about this. Why that high snap from John Michael Schmitz on the first drive?
It's actually a low snap.
Low snap.
It rolled back. Yeah, what it is, it's a shotgun snap. It's called an aborted snap. And so what they do is they credit John Michael Schmitz with a fumble is what they do. So the ball's just on the ground, and it's just a recovery of the fumble. So it's not even considered a play.
Which is why you can't give Micah a sack for that.
You can't give Micah a sack because, again, it's called aborted. And then they give center a fumble, and so Jones recovers. It's just like this, like it's the snap never happened, and that's why they don't give Micah the sack there.
Great clarification, because I know a lot of the people on Twitch, YouTube, the text that has been coming in 877-881-1053 as you hang out with Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, 2/5 of the G-Bag Nation on the flagship 105.3 The Fan. A lot of people were wondering about that. Why Mike only have 1 sack? That would be why. Saw this from our buddy Bill Jones. 95, the last year the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. They beat the Giants in the season opener in the Meadowlands, 35-0.
Yeah.
This year, 40-0.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like our buddy RJ Ochoa likes to connect those dots. Just food for thought there as we move forward for the rest of the 2023 season. Let's hear from the victorious head coach who has won his first season opener as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
Mike, David. Dallas Morning News. This is the most decisive shutout victory in franchise history. Just understanding it's only one game, but just the statement that you guys made today and what it showed about this team.
I mean, really the focus was to get off, the season, take the first step. We accomplished that tonight. I think just like anything, it was our first live game together. So, then you had the weather factor in. So a lot of good things tonight to build off of but I mean, it is one win. It's your first division win, your first road win. And all those are important because it's important to get that first one under your belt. But just the way we played, and it's nice when you see the players, emphasize and you see it exercised in practice and carried over to the field. I thought the defense and the block field goal got it started, and and it really never stopped. The defense was relentless all night. The takeaways, and just what a great job with the return game and the offense for taking care of the football. I mean, that was there were some tough conditions. You can see both sides handling snaps, handling punts. Exchanges were a challenge all night, and I thought the offense did an excellent job in that area too. So, the big play production was probably as high as I can recall. And that's how you get to these type of games. But it's one win. It's a really good start for us.
Your first opening win as the Cowboys coach. Can you talk about that and just the completeness of what you did?
Zach Martin just told me that. Walking in there, the PR department forgot to tell me that I hadn't won a game yet. So I would have been more motivated coming in there. But yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, I never focused on that. I mean, it's important to get that first win. So it was good to get, I guess, my first opening win.
Mike Jordy, I've signed with Yahoo Sports. Even if you weren't focused on it for you, returning to play calling, how did it feel? And I guess what was that experience like?
I mean, it was good. I think like anything, because of the weather, you had to adjust. And I thought the offensive staff and the communication of players was excellent tonight. I mean, there's always going to be things that, I'm going to want to do better, and that's it's no different tonight. So, we had a couple things, but I thought it was a relatively clean game. I thought. I don't ever want to say conservative. I think you have to be smart in spots there. And I thought Dak did an excellent job commanding that and being smart in the decision-making, particularly because you can see the way the game started there early, after their first drive. The ball protecting the football was going to be a big challenge tonight, and I thought Dak and the offense did a really nice job of that.
Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. Your pass rush of the sacks tonight, was it something about the matchups that you guys took advantage of, or was it just kind of a continuation of what you saw this summer in training camp?
Well, I mean, that's who we are. I clearly feel, we've taken another step. You could see that in training camp. But I would say, you look at the way teams are going to try to play us. You look at their first series. I mean, they're going to try to pound the ball and challenge our run defense, over and over again, try to, soften up the pass rush. But, the pass rush was relentless tonight. We gave up contain a couple times early, but, after that, I clearly was in total control of the game.
Sham, show The Athletic. Can you talk a little bit about some of the maybe lesser-known guys stepping up, like Wanye and
absolutely.
Noah?
Loved it. It said in the middle of the first quarter, we had a number of young guys play big. Noah, had the big play. But, Marquise, I thought had some really nice plays. But, and I think we talked about this about a week ago. I'm just really thrilled to see our young guys. They're ready, and you can see it here just in our first game. So I thought we had a lot of production from our young players.
Mike, coming off back-to-back 12-5 seasons, and then you added Cooks and Gilmore, and both of them gave you a little something tonight. Just talk about what they did tonight and adding those to what you've had in place here.
They're excellent football players. That's stating the obvious, but they're really good fits for us. They really fit very well with how we want to play. And then I think they're extraordinary both in the way they've come in and connected with the locker room. Because, to me, the physical talent, the football IQ, all those things are really, really important, and you can measure those. But the emotional connection in the culture is something that needs to be organic. And those guys have really fit in, because I didn't know them personally. I didn't have a relationship with them. So when you bring in veterans, it's you don't know how that's always going to go. So I think those guys have done an incredible job coming in here. You would not think that they were new, just on how they interact and how they've connected.
Coach McCarthy brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and Blockchain. Trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder, with blockchain.com. Certainly, Mike McCarthy talking about the Cowboys' pass rush and the defense there. The Cowboys generated pressure on 23 of 37 dropbacks at 62%. The fourth highest pressure rate in a game since 2019, according to Next Gen Stats. They also had 8 defenders generate multiple pressures, including 4 with at least 5. That would be Micah, Fowler, Osa, and Dorrance. And to your point earlier there, Bryan, he did note, the weather. He kind of had to adjust some things. And maybe it's not necessarily, it's a one-game sample size. We saw some wrinkles that we liked. Not the best game from the offense, but to your point, Coach alluded to it, weather probably a factor.
Yeah, the fact that your defense was so dominant that your offense could, take a break. And I know you don't want to take a break, first game of the season, but the offense really just needed to not turn the ball over. The Giants were giving up pressure. They were struggling on special teams. Your defense was doing a great job. The points you got from the defense was good enough to win the game. You didn't offensively, but you would have liked to. I like what I liked about offense tonight was some of the creativity. I understand there's going to be problems with the weather and things like that, but the offense is they're gonna probably have to show up one day, and the defense might not be at their absolute best. We saw some games in NFL today. Matter of fact, the Miami Chargers game, was just an absolute shootout. And so neither team, was playing very good defense in that game. But so I think there's going to be a time where Dallas's offense, and if they continue to kind of work on things, protection and don't turn the football over, and hit some of those plays, the pick plays, the rub routes, things like that, run the football a little bit better, then I think things will be fine. But it was an off night for them. It really was.
And it leads into a text question 877-881-1053 on the Dallas Cowboys radio network to call and to text in. But Garrett texted in and wanted to hear our observations. Defense looked like a Super Bowl defense, but the offense looked a little suspect. Dak was inaccurate. Offense was far from in sync, and I would agree with that. Now I do say watching Week 1 across the NFL. The offense has looked rusty. The offense has looked behind. There was sloppy play. It's not an excuse, but certainly Dak wasn't at his best tonight.
No, he wasn't. He really wasn't. And that's but that's.
But he didn't need to be, right? It was very reminiscent of the 4-1 5 games without him, where Cooper Rush did his job, didn't lose him the game, and the defense just balled out.
That's the defense was the star of the show today. There's no question about that. And I will say this though, that next week though, there are things when they're flying back tonight and they're looking at the tape of the game. I'm sure there are things like, okay, we could build on this, or we really need to get a lot better. They didn't turn the ball over, which I think was the key in those conditions. But offensively, the quarterback, the running game, they're going to have to be a little bit more consistent. I like some of the balance. Like I say, the best drive I felt they had was the one coming out of the second half.
Yeah, 10 plays, 75 yards.
That was the
touchdown.
one. Me personally, I'm like, you asked me, what do you need to do? And I challenged them.
You called it.
I challenged them to go get points. And they were able to do that. And that's what this team needs to be like. That needs to, if their defense is playing to this level and you go out and play like you did in the first drive of the second half, there's not many teams that are going to beat you that way.
No, not at all. And I was a little bit surprised that they didn't try and attack more vertically, maybe take advantage of the Giants secondary, starting 2 rookie corners. But again, they had a lead, and Mike McCarthy's talked about this, and a big reason why he wanted to start calling the plays. So he can kind of get a feel for in-game how to manage that, not just being kind of a walk-around head coach, but also dictate that in the way he calls the game. And you didn't need to take a bunch of shots down the field.
No, you really didn't. And, I was the way that he went for it on 4th and was it 4th and 2, 4th and 3? I thought that was a nice play to get Cooks the ball. Dak with a good throw, the protection right there, made it work there. So all good with that regard. But yeah, there's a lot of things that they're going to have to clean up.
Absolutely, and certainly to the 817's point, Dak had 2 good passes to the tight ends. Ferguson dropped 1. Hendershot dropped 1. I'm sure they'll work to clean those up.
It's not the post-game show of killing Dak here.
No, not at all.
But if you can't watch that game and not say the offense needs to play better.
Right. If the Super Bowl's the standard, the defense looked every bit as good to be a Super Bowl team. The offense, they didn't need to be today.
No.
But when you play the Jets next week, and let's say you're not shutting out Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, you need your offense to make some plays, they're going to have to perform a little bit better to win that game.
Weather will not be a factor in next week's game.
No doubt.
No, execution will be the factor in that game.
Absolutely. All right, we will hear from Dak Prescott. We'll also hear from Micah Parsons, more player audio, more of your calls and text. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Is your workplace on top of its game? For over 100 years,
And the first play is a fake and back to throw, and he's in big jail and goes down. I'll tell you, Lawrence and Odigizua got back there, and Jones stepped up away from Odigizua, and he said, you know where would be a good place for me to be right now? On the ground.
Osa, Odigizua, big night. Micah Parsons, big night as well. The defense was absolutely fantastic. The 40 points is the third largest opening game margin of victory in the Cowboys' history, and it's the largest margin among openers played on the road. That courtesy of our buddy and our Cowboys insider, Bobby Bell, here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Zach Wolchuk, along with the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, breaking this down with you after a 40-0 Cowboys shellacking of the New York Giants that saw Giant fans in tears and Let's Go Cowboy chants ringing from MetLife Stadium. 877-881-1053, the number to call and the number to text. But right now, let's hear from your victorious quarterback, Dak Prescott.
Clarence at Football Telegram. The offense didn't have to do much tonight. Just can talk about the play of the defense, and you guys didn't have to, you could play conservative and just let the defense do what they needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, great team win. And like you said, it starts with the defense, really starts with special teams. I mean, starting with the block field goal that turns into a touchdown, and then the defense then just creating turnovers and giving us a couple of touchdown lead, and then just allowing them to go feast. And I think I've talked about it all spring to training camp, understanding the pass rush that we were going against at practice and just watching that come alive against another team, another quarterback was exciting. And as you said, made it easier for us on our side.
John Michaud, The Athletic, how was the communication and how do you think things went with Mike calling the plays for the first time? How did you guys think to do it?
Yeah, I mean, great. Yeah, not necessarily me to him getting to do it in the preseason, but heard how he called all the games, the first couple of games, and then we've had opportunities at practice, whether it be 2-minute, whether it just be put the ball down, call it plays, whether it be the red zone drill, where I understood his flow, I understood his tempo, how he got things in the plays, and his purpose in it, as I talked about all spring. And that goes just honestly to our communication throughout the week of why he's calling something, when he's going to call it, and what he wants to call it for. And thought it went smooth and a great start.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Your thoughts on some of the different things you did offensively? You got interpreted backfield, and obviously Tony got 2 touchdowns, but some of the different things you did tonight.
Yeah, I think I've said it all off season long, just that we've got playmakers, we got guys that have a lot of speed, that need to get the ball out in space, and that's something that you're going to see this year from us is I don't want to say featuring those guys more, but getting those guys that deserve the ball in space as much as we can, knowing that they're great guys to make guys miss and create explosive plays, and that's how you make explosives without chasing them. So we've got the guys to do it, and it's my job to get it to them.
One of those plays, the long pass to CD where you had the bunch and he kind of got free there.
Yeah, I mean, any pass to CD is going to consist of that.
But you surprised at how that was designed and how he was able to?
No, not surprised. I mean, that's something that we're looking for. No, it was a play call. That one goes into the preparation, understanding what they're going to give us on third down. Great timing by Coach, getting it in at that time, getting exactly what we wanted, the look we wanted, got to that play. And, yeah, I mean, when you do your preparation throughout the week, that should happen, and it did. Great by the guys of executing.
Todd Archer, the ESPN. Dak, what kind of statement is this, 40-0?
It's the first game. That's y'all's jobs to write whatever statement it needs to be. For us, it's about not getting ahead of ourselves, continuing to stay disciplined, show the discipline, not only that we did through these 4 quarters, but taking that and making sure we use that in our preparation throughout this week. And then moving forward to next week, going home against another New York team, a good team. So it's the NFL. You got to show up week in and week out and be prepared, and you don't see a lot of wins like this, so we're not going to get ahead of ourselves on this.
Tori Epstein, Yahoo Sports. You mentioned discipline. Mike mentioned a rain plan. How much do you have to balance in a game like this, big plays, but also making sure you don't get too over the top when there's rain and just kind of this weather?
Yeah, I mean, I credit our coaches again, just the preparation. We did wet ball drills in the last couple of days of practice, and we obviously needed them. Still a couple of times there was 1 or 2 balls that got away from me. Yeah, a couple of times I caught the snap or got it from under center, and yeah, I mean, it was a straight ball of water, but that happens, and that goes into the drill, just being able to handle it for the most part. Didn't get the completion on the back end that we wanted, but yeah, and then when your defense plays like that, you don't have to press anything. You don't have to try to make those plays, but we're still attacking the opportunities that we got one-on-ones and trying to get them when we could.
Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Statement aside, how important is it for this to set the tone toward the Carpe Omnia model that McCarthy unveiled last week?
Yeah, I mean, that's a team motto. It's huge. I mean, in the sense of play for everything, play every down. Everything matters. Doing it for the people that you love, obviously. And it was a great start. I mean, credit the staff, just the way that they've prepared us. All training kept along throughout this week. An amazing team meeting for Mike this morning. Not getting a chance for the offense and all of our guys to play preseason. This is a big one. Great way to start. And as I said, it's just the start, though. A lot more opportunities ahead of us, and we've got to take it one by one each day.
Certainly a lot of season left. Dak 13-24.
Didn't have an answer for that one, did he?
No, the Carpe Omnia.
No, he had to think about that for a second.
Like, yeah. But Dak Prescott.
He's like me. He's SEC educated.
Yeah, being very, very honest. And I agree. He was like, look, he didn't have to press tonight. And he didn't. He didn't have to press. And he's gotten up against that Cowboys defense and pass rush and Micah. I mean, we saw what Micah was doing, wrecking them during training camp. He was probably thinking, wow, it's really nice to be able to be on the sideline and watch them do that against someone else.
Yeah, we were watching Ogba, sit there and struggle with Micah Parsons and all that. And it's always the questions always find it really funny. Not that I'm the greatest question asker of the world, but
it's harder than you think
sometimes. And I just always go back to Dak and his answers. Remember the one time he was with us and he was talking about like Eric had to make up Team X.
Oh yeah, can
you tell us about
have
team?
You been to quarterback school?
Yeah.
How do you
make
Team X?
Team X, and
really good, really competitive. We got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, every time I hear Dak giving those answers, I think about Team X.
Oh man,
but no, it really was, and he's right though that they there's going to be a time though where the defense, the offense is going to have to show up and carry this defense.
Sure.
Now, if this defense plays like this, and they're probably capable of playing like this every week, but we'll see. They're going to play some better offenses. They're going to play some teams with better offensive lines, and but they're going to have to offensively. They're going to have to find a way to sustain some drives. Hey, give the coaches some credit too for working on the wet ball drill stuff, knowing that potentially could happen in the game. But Dak was saying it was kind of a difficult situation.
Yeah,
out there
and I'm sure that it was. But
Absolutely.
You're right, long season. And we saw chunks of last year. Defense came out. Looked like, okay, could this be a defense that can carry a team to a Super Bowl? And then they went through some injuries. They went through some portions in games where they didn't play up to standard. And the offense then had to elevate and be the side of the football. And that's why football's amazing. It's the ultimate team sport. Tonight was the ultimate team win.
Well, you're gonna need this, and this defense has played well against, like they play San Francisco here on the schedule, coming up. You don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you're going to need to play like this on defense against San Francisco. And that's going to be
absolutely. And they look good, man. Brock Purdy being back in the saddle.
That is going to be a real test for you, coming up. But there's some games you have to get ready for. But offensively, you better figure some things out.
Yep.
You better figure some things out.
Post-game show brought to you by Blockchain. You don't need a complicated play to bring it into the end zone. That's why you should trust the team at Blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with Blockchain.com. 40-0, Cowboys shut out the Giants. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus with you here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Let's go back out to the phones. I know a lot of people have been waiting patiently. Let's go to Bill in the Bronx. Bill, how you doing, sir?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
We're doing fantastic.
Awesome. Yo, listen, I am a G-Bag guy. I'm from New York. I have 2 flags of G-Bag Nation hanging in my backyard. Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm that guy.
We love you.
I'm that guy. But I'll tell you this. You know what? Back in 1995, I was there when the Giants lost 35-0.
Mm-hmm.
Opening day, Monday Night Football. Here we are. Wow. It's come back again. It's funny because I look at it because here we have Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, all this off-season stuff that they've been talking off-season, the money, the this, the that. Here they are. what did they accomplish? A lot of money was spent on that team, and they have produced nothing today. This guy held out. Another guy got all his money, and what did they accomplish today?
No, I appreciate the call, Bill. You're absolutely right. And, I think a lot of people have been taking to social media. You look at Joe Burrow's performance today. Certainly what Daniel Jones did tonight against a Cowboys defense that I think deserves a lot of the credit, but Daniel Jones did not play well. It was the worst passer rating of his career since he's been in the NFL. But if you were to change those names and have those stat lines with a Dak Prescott, you know what all the talk shows are saying. Dak is getting absolutely eviscerated tomorrow morning. I don't know that the same energy will be given to a Joe Burrow. Maybe it will to a Daniel Jones.
No, the Giants, there were some expectations for the Giants, but the second half of the season, the Giants kind of just limped into the playoffs. They tried to get more skilled players. So that they go out and they get Waller. They drafted Hyatt. They drafted a center high in the second round. Today was just a bad day for them.
It's just everything went wrong.
If you play sports long enough, you will be on one of those. I will never forget this. I was on an LSU team that played the University of Miami with Michael Irvin on it. I was on the coaching staff, and we got beat 45-3. And it didn't matter. In a driving rainstorm in Baton Rouge, you will play games where nothing goes right. And that was a Jimmy Johnson coach team that beat us there in Baton Rouge that night. But if you play this long enough, you will have games like this. And the Giants had one of those tonight. The Cowboys need to kind of figure things out as far as some of the offensive stuff. And, you catch the Giants later on in the year. I don't think you'll beat the Giants 40-0. Hell, you might. But I think this was one of those nights where the Cowboys did everything possibly right execution-wise, defensively on special teams, and some of the things, offensive snaps they had. But this is one of those rare ones that you get to be on one side of, and the Giants were, for them and their fan base, unfortunately, was on the wrong side of it.
There is a trend, and this was quite the nugget in the stat that Babe Laufenberg found. But for the Giants, they have struggled against the Cowboys and the Eagles in their last 26 games against Dallas and Philly. Giants are now 3-23.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys and the Eagles, they've been swapping off, but those are usually the two teams that are the front runners for the division. Mm-hmm. If the Giants want to become that team, they've got to perform better against the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Well, their offensive line is a problem. And they've got really probably too much youth at corner.
They're going to go through growing pains.
If you watch what was going on tonight with Cooks and the way they were able to run routes and stuff like that, Cooks had him, like they were in a revolving door, like they couldn't get out of the revolving door.
It was unreal.
Yeah.
All right, a lot of you still on hold waiting. We will get to you, I promise. Appreciate everybody. It is an absolute thrilling party as we celebrate a 40-0 Cowboys win over the Giants. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
People will always come and go in our lives, but we all know those few who never left, the ones who make you.
overtime.
Second down, I formation. Pollard handoff, walk the dog. Everything sealed out to the inside. Tony Pollard walked the dog and scored his second touchdown of the night.
Heck yes, he did. Tony Pollard averaging 5 yards a carry in his first game of the 2023 season without Ezekiel Elliott, the official number one running back this year for the Cowboys. And he certainly started a handful of games last year, did a fantastic job, but a nice performance in game one for Tony Pollard, as that was our drive of the game, brought to you by Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. That was a 10-play drive, 75 yards in 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Pollard had a 25-yard run over the course of the drive as well, and then it ended with that 1-yard touchdown. And that was after our halftime show. Bryan, you put it out there. You said, "Look, guys, I'm going to need you to come out here, go down the field, and score."
Yeah,
they heard you.
Well, there needed to be something, because the offense was just really kind of playing in puddles, with all the rain.
Literally, yeah.
They literally were playing in puddles, and, there really wasn't the continuity of it and what it needed to do. And, there was a couple of creative plays there, but the second half, they needed to come out and to me, the second half drive, when they scored on that first drive, that essentially that ended with any chance the Giants had. That, as far as I was concerned, that was it. They put the stake in him at that point in time. But they need to have more of those drives, that like what they did to start the second half.
Sustain, and it'll keep your defense fresh as well.
It absolutely will be.
No question.
Yeah.
877-881-1053, as always, the number to call, the number to text in the official post-game show of your Dallas Cowboys on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Zach Wolchuk alongside my teammate, my partner, the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. Let's head back out to the phones, and a lot of you have been waiting patiently. Let's go to David in New Jersey. David, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you? Glad to be with you tonight. At the game, I live in New Jersey, so I was at the game, and it was electric. Giant fans they thought they were going to pull one out, and obviously after that blocked field goal, it was over. And it was just a dominant performance, and us Cowboy fans up here in New Jersey are really excited for the spanking that we did tonight. So I just wanted to share in the driving home, and just want to share the love with Cowboy Nation.
No, I appreciate it, David. Thank you so much. And they were a lot of those Giant fans were filing out, probably the result of the game and the weather related there, but appreciated all the Cowboy love that was there. I mean, the Let's Go Cowboy
Well, they
chants.
always, the Cowboy fans, there's a couple of places when I used to travel with the team, always impressed with the crowd that showed up at Giant Stadium. Always impressed with the crowd that showed up at FedEx.
Yeah.
And always impressed with the crowds that would fight the fans in Philadelphia.
Oh,
that part of the
you.
country, Tex Schramm knew what he was doing way, way back when he figured out about putting the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. He knew what those markets, he knew that fan base up there. And, and it's nice now. Again, our fans that live up in the area are going to have to deal with Jet fans. Get ready.
Sure.
After – because it's going to be another week of Jets, and especially if the Jets find a way to beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to deal with that. Get ready for that.
Absolutely. All right, let's head out to Don in Nashville. Don, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, guys. Appreciate y'all taking my phone call. My dog and I are hanging out here. His name's Romo. We're my wife's Titans cheerleader, so we hardly ever get a chance to sit outside and have a good time. But up here in Nashville, we're sitting here just wondering, what's it going to take to get over that hump with the Eagles? I think we're there. Definitely defenses. There's no question. But I'm a little worried about that O-line and those running backs.
Thank you. Appreciate the call, Don.
For the Eagles, is he worried about the Cowboys' offensive line and running backs, or is he worried about their running backs?
I think the Cowboys. Are they better than the Eagles? How do they get over the? And honestly,
today Nick Sirianni tried to give you the game in New England today.
He did.
I mean, Hurts tried to fumble.
If Mac Jones were any better,
that's what you need to worry about, is the ability for their quarterback and their head coach to put their defense on the line like that in the last two series and come out of there with a victory the way they did. You should worry about the Eagles there. I mean, because their offense, Their offense, just watching the game, it seemed like to me that the Eagles really weren't in any kind of real rhythm, much like we talk about the Cowboys' offensive rhythm. But to me personally, I feel like that Dak Prescott generally plays pretty well against the Eagles.
He does.
It plays well against the NFC East in general. There always seems to be some type of a split when they get to, but I think today I would worry about Philadelphia's defense just because of what they were able to do to create turnovers, and then Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts putting them in a terrible situation on back-to-back plays in the last 3 minutes, or back-to-back series in the last 3 minutes of that football game.
I also
think and get a win out of it.
Absolutely. And you had an entire offseason for Bill Belichick, one of the best, if not the best, defensive minds in the sport, in the history of the sport, to watch Philadelphia's offense and Jalen Hurts and try and figure out, okay, how can we stop them? And really, you had the pick six from Darius Slay, but their defense did a great job, and they showed them some different coverages just watching the game and listening to Romo's call, that Romo even said, wow, that's a coverage I've never seen before. You had corner blitzes from Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
They did some things that presented challenges for Jalen Hurts in that offense, and it's a copycat league. I'm not saying it's the blueprint, but I do think other teams are going to take some of that as well when it comes to defending the Eagles.
The Eagles, if you're just a stat watcher, Hurts threw for 170 yards. They averaged less than 5.5 yards a throw. Didn't have an interception in the game. Eagles ran the ball 25 times for 97 yards. Gainwell was their big carry with 14 for 54, along of 16. Jalen Hurts was the second leading rusher in that group. A.J. Brown was a big factor, 7 catches, 79 yards, the way he plays. But the Eagles, they struggled a little bit on offense. Their defense was, like I'd say, I was super, super impressed with the way they played on defense.
Yeah, they're a talented team. They're the defending NFC champs. I get why you ask, hey, that's who you've got to leap over. To me, I still think it's the 49ers. The 49ers are the team that's not.
Is he talking about within division?
Well, just in general in the NFC. To me, I think it's the 49ers are the team the Cowboys have lost to 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And I get that the Eagles are the reigning champs, but I think the Cowboys match up much better with Philly than they do San Francisco.
Oh, no, they know they could beat Philadelphia. The problem is they don't know if they could beat Washington. They could beat
the Niners.
The Niners.
And look, we'll find out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And boy, did they look pretty good today. Okay, let's go back out to the phones. But before that, it is time to pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
All right, our buddy Greg has been waiting patiently in a place where they know how to play some darn good high school football out in Brock. Greg, what's going on, my dude? You're on with the Dallas Cowboys post-game show.
Hey, guys. I appreciate you taking my phone call, man. Couple of observations I had just watching the game, and I want to get y'all's opinion on it. Do you think we're going to be better going 4 wide, better than having a tight end after watching our tight ends do what they did today on third downs? And then the other observation is Kevontae Turpin playing in a running back role today. What do y'all think about that, guys?
Like the creativity there, and I'm going to keep these tight ends on the field. I think I'm not going to sit there and I think the tight ends, they were off today catching the football. Blocking, I thought that they did a pretty good job. There were a couple of runs there where Ferguson, Schoonmaker, those guys, even they put Lipke in there one time too,
for the
touchdown as a blocker. So I'm not going to walk away from these tight ends. I just think that it was a bad night at the office for them catching the ball, and there's going to be times where you're going to need them to make some plays for you, and I think they will come up big for you.
Yeah, I think when you beat a team 40-0, and there's not a lot of negatives, the one thing that you can point to from this game is you had the big drop from Ferguson, and you had the touchdown drop from Hendershot. I think it's going to be a massive overreaction this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think both are pretty sure-handed players. I think Jake Ferguson is still going to be an upgrade over Dalton Schultz. Ferguson did a tremendous job of blocking, and I can't wait for you to go back on the All-22 and get more detail on that. But he's a guy that, that's an upgrade there. Scooney, we know how good of a blocker he is.
Right.
They were able to spring Tony Pollard for that 25-yard game. The Cowboys can spread you out if they want to, but I think the utilization of those tight ends, especially in motion, the way they were putting Ferguson around, That's the way to go, and I wouldn't be discouraged just because they each had one big drop tonight. No. They'll learn, and they'll move forward, and that won't happen again. All right, let's go to Taylor in Royce City. Taylor, what's going on? You're on with Zach Wolchuk and Bryan Broaddus.
Do y'all think that our defense can stay consistent, especially against the better teams like Philadelphia, the Bills, the Rams, or even especially October the 8th against the 49ers? And if instead of them putting, the offense on their backs, if the offense can do the,
you talking about the defense being
tonight?
You talking about the defense being consistent? What are you? Yes, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Yes, if the defense can stay consistent especially against the better teams like the ones I just pointed out, and if the offense can put them on their back instead,
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, flip-flop that.
Yeah, see, to me, this is I trust Dan Quinn. I completely trust him using personnel. And you saw tonight what happens when Dallas can make somebody one-dimensional. Teams should be terrified throwing the ball or trying to throw the ball against the Cowboys. Now, running the football was the first drive of the game, we went through some runs, the quarterback runs, some 5-yard runs, some 8-yard runs, some 9-yard runs. You're going to see people, and Mike McCarthy even said it in the postgame.
Yeah.
Teams are going to challenge Dallas early.
Up front, they will.
They will challenge you if you can play run defense.
Right.
And if you don't play run defense, I don't see teams wanting to throw the football at all, not against this crew, not with the way they cover on the back end, or have shown that at least this week that they could cover on the back end.
Yeah, the way Gilmore and Diggs played and Bland played.
The way they rush the passer.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. And I also think, when the 49ers do have a great offense, no doubt. And I think Brock Purdy's going to even take a step. I was super impressed watching him play today. But the last two times the Cowboys have played the Niners, it wasn't the offense that was beating you. It was the Cowboys' lack of offense.
Yes.
The defense held their own, especially in the playoff game last year. Defense played well enough to win that football game, so I absolutely do think that they can be consistent and perform against a better offense.
The Jets will be a big challenge. I say this again, looking forward to seeing Buffalo play tomorrow night. See how Buffalo attacks the Jets.
Yep.
And see how Aaron Rodgers and his crew reacts to that.
All right, we have a ton more calls to get to. We've also got Micah Parsons audio that we want to bring to the table, along with Osa Odighizuwa, J. Ron Curse, all of that more as we're in the Power Hour, the final hour of the Dallas Cowboys post-game show. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
They say champions.
Graham Gano, the 9-year veteran, just signed a new contract, will try a 45-yard field goal from the left hash. And that ball is mishandled. Blocked and picked up by the Cowboys defender on the right sideline. It is Noah Igbenogany, and he runs it in for a touchdown for Dallas.
Oh, yes, and poor Brad there. He said that he stumbled on Igbenogany's name, and he practiced it all week. And it happens. In the moment,
Igbenogany.
It certainly happens, and we might have that for Two Guys, One Booth tomorrow, but we love you, Brad. That is our What a Play of the Game, brought to you by WinStar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, WinStar knows what it means to be a star. With over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games, the all-new 2-story WinStar Spa and Cascades, their luxury pool complex, WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. Wanye Thomas with that block of Graham Gano's field goal, and then Noah Igbenogany's return for a touchdown.
Iggy.
Good old Iggy. That's the best way that we should
Just
go by
Iggy.
it.
Iggy's got it.
But it was the first career block there for Thomas and first career touchdown in his first game as a Cowboy for Iggy.
Who's our guy that Noches for the
Rakeem Nunez Roches?
No, the guy. It's the Giants defensive tackle. God dang it! I need to pull up my my depth chart thing. Anyway, but yeah, he. It's funny because everybody calls him Nacho.
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, like, when you don't know how to pronounce somebody's name, you come up with some creative. It's the defensive tackle from Southern Miss that the Giants just got.
Yeah, I think it's Rakeem Nunez Roches.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
that's him.
But everybody calls me.
Everyone just goes Nacho.
Well, remember we had Kim Jones on the other day, and she's like, Nacho. And
Nacho.
Then the pregame, Bob Papa did the same thing. And they've got Nacho. You're like going, oh, okay.
No one wants to say his name.
Nobody wants to say the guy's name.
Amazing.
You just go ahead, just go right by it. Yeah.
I also loved when we had Kim Jones on. We asked her about the Tiki Barber comment about, Daniel Jones. I'd take him 100 out of 100 times over Dak. Well, that circulated and made the rounds on social media. Kim's answer was priceless. I don't think anybody agrees with what Tiki Barber has to say. That was a mic drop response.
I tell you what, Kim, there's some really fun stories about Kim in a nice way. I'm not saying any bad ways, but Kim's got a little edge to her, and she's got a little toughness to her.
Oh, she does.
She is not afraid to say what is on her mind.
No, she will speak the facts. Yeah. No doubt about that.
She is a truther.
40-0. Cowboys 1-0. Zach Wolchuk hanging out, staying up late with you with the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. And we do want to get some more of your calls and texts, but Micah Parsons, he was speaking to the media afterwards, the one-sack performance, but certainly he disrupted the game in many, many more ways, and the stats will show you. Micah, here's what he had to say postgame.
Micah, how would you describe tonight's performance from the defense and the way you jumped on them early in this game tonight?
I thought it was good, all three phases, but it started off with the special teams, that big block, and I just think we just carried the momentum and the shift from there, and we just never let up, which is good. Great sign, because last year we might have let up a little bit, but we just stayed on them and didn't let them breathe. We smothered them.
The defensive line specifically tonight just seemed like it was even better than maybe at any point last year. You guys had some great moments last year. I mean, did it feel like you guys were clicking in a way that maybe we haven't even seen? And again, you've been good at times, many times in the past.
Yeah, I think it just all started with the offseason of camp. Everyone came in with a preparation, a mindset that we was going to dominate. We know that these games depend on us, and I think we really keyed in, honed in this week. And we prepared to the max, and we was ready for our opponent. We just got to keep that going.
40-0. Could you have imagined a better start for this team this season?
No, that's a great start. I ain't seen nothing like that since we've been here. But it's the consistency, and we just got to keep it going.
Mike, you've talked about the Ray Lewis Ravens defenses, those Tampa defenses, the Seattle ones. Did you guys play like one of those defenses tonight?
I believe so. Yes, just with the turnovers, the relentlessness, the effort by all 11, even the guys that came in that fourth quarter and helped finish the shutout. I mean, all across the board, I think everyone's locked in and committed to this team.
Look, it's a lot to – it's one game. You don't want to be prisoner of the moment. But with the way that this defense has played the last 2 years, with how we saw Micah look in training camp, with the addition of Stephon Gilmore, without having guys like Jordan Lewis and Donovan Wilson, and having some of these young dudes like Wanye Thomas and Marquise Bell step up, the variety and the depth that they've got along the defensive line, they certainly have the talent and the ability to be one of those all-time great defenses.
They can, but it's week one, and it was the Giants, who were compromised, I felt like, across the offensive line. But that's what you have to do. You know, if teams are going to have, you take advantage of teams that have weakness. And that's where, you know, look at the last 3 years. This team defense has gotten better every year, and a lot of it has to do because of Dan Quinn.
Absolutely.
And every spring you survive him getting possibly another coaching job somewhere. I'm watching Arizona change coaches and Denver change coaches, and Indianapolis Colts change coaches, and and Dan Quinn somehow, some way ends up back on your sidelines. And I think that there is such a belief with these players in Dan that that hey, he is going to help us. He is going to be the reason why. If we just do what we're supposed to do today, assignment-wise and effort-wise, we got a shot to win these games and be dominant. And they were that way today. They smelt blood in the water, and once it started to happen, it never stopped. And so I give that staff full credit. I give them credit for the players that they have, the players that they brought in, and they're taking great advantage of those talented players.
No question. And you're just 1 week, but and a long way to go, but certainly very, very exciting. All right, let's get back out to the phones. We got Mike in Fort Worth. Mike, what's going on? You're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, sir. My question is about Mozzie and Navigo Gallimore. I wanted to know what the film on those guys looks like. I'm a truck driver, so I didn't get to see the game. I only heard about it, and I know I can't look at stats for interior defensive linemen.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about those guys. And shout out to our kicker. He missed the field goal, but it was a wet ball, and he did a lot better than the kicker from the other sidelines. So the talk in training camp was, who is the kicker and do we have one? And I liked it.
Well, be safe out there on the roads. And, yeah, I'll try and get to the All-22 tomorrow morning before I'm on Cowboys break, 11 a.m. tomorrow. So I've got a busy day tomorrow, but I'm going to get that work done for you. I can't tell you, like with the defense, I think there was a couple times just from the TV copy where I saw Neville Gallimore involved in some of the movement stunts and things like that. Maybe late in the second half, they got more of an opportunity. Didn't really notice Mozzie much tonight.
No, Mozzie
I'm not going
to drive.
I'm not going to lie to you and sit there and say, oh, well, Mozzie did this and Mozzie did that, because I didn't really notice him. But it seemed like to me that once the Giants got behind, the way they did, it turned into a nickel game.
Right. So you didn't get a lot of Mozzie.
You didn't really need a lot of Mozzie.
I did think it was interesting that 3rd and 1 at the Cowboy 38, the opening drive of the game, where the Giants had the most success they had all game until, of course, the blocked field goal, and then you had the bad snap. But 3rd and 1 is where I thought, okay, this is why you drafted Mozzie. This is when you would put maybe Mozzie and Hankins out there together. They didn't. I think Neville went in there.
Right.
And Chauncey Golston was playing some, but they didn't put Mozzie in. Now, it might just be one of those things where they're easing, rookies in. But tonight, I didn't notice any negative, but I also, to your point, I don't think it was a ton of snaps for Mozzie.
I did not notice anything about it where it wasn't like, oh, well, Mozzie was in there on a specific play and did this and did that. Matter of fact, I mean, if you just want to look at stats, we'll see if Mozzie even made the stat sheet for you. Actually had two. Yeah, had a tackle. Yeah, had a tackle and an assist. So had 2 tackles total. So probably in the second half when the Giants were in there. But like I say, we'll check the All-22 and see where it was at.
All right, let's head out to Garland and catch up with Anthony. Anthony, what's going on?
Hey man, what's going on, y'all? Thank you for taking my call. Bryan, what's going on, man? I called y'all on Thursday with what you drinking, what you thinking.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, man, and I told y'all, now I had to score 24-0 with 14 points coming from our defense.
You did.
You did.
You absolutely did.
Yeah, you did, Anthony.
You sure did. Yep. Good for you.
Yeah, well, the defense got 13 points.
Yeah. Well, did you think the offense was going to kind of struggle the way? What made you make that prediction that you made? Did you think the offense was going to be a little rusty?
I did think the offense was going to struggle a bit because we normally do that when we be resting our starters during the preseason. But I've been hearing you talk so much about this pass rush through all training camp, and I really wasn't worried about our secondary because outside of Evan Ingram, give me a receiver the Giants have that Trayvon Diggs will have a problem with, or Stephen Gilmore.
Yeah. Well, they did a nice job tonight. Defense did a good job holding things up.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Anthony, and it's Darren Waller is who you're talking about. But you're right.
Evan Ingram's at Jacksonville.
And that's why, former Giant, though. So I hear you. That's why next week, and we'll see tomorrow. Maybe the Jets come out and they look flat. But Garrett Wilson certainly is the caliber of playmaker. They've got some weapons there that will cause more problems than what the Giants were able to do.
I'll tell you what you need to kind of worry about. There's going to be some teams down the line, and I know two of them faced off, and you're going to get to see them, and it'll probably be a lot different. You catch the Chargers here in a little bit, and then you catch the Dolphins late.
My gosh, what Tua and Tyreek Hill did today.
Those games, I tell you that those two teams put on a show. There was no run. Now, if you want to talk about defensive issues,
yeah,
there were some defensive issues going on with the Dolphins and the Chargers, but man, both those quarterbacks came to play today.
They did.
Yeah, you look at with Herbert he didn't have the yardage that Tua had. Tua threw for 466
yards. He was pushing Dan Marino's record at one point.
Yeah, 28 of 45 in that game, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So
Tyreek over 200 yards receiving.
He did 11 receptions for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you're going to play some offenses that'll test you.
Yeah.
There's no
and maybe
question.
next week.
Yeah.
That Jets offense will maybe.
You know how petrified I am, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I have nightmares about that dude. And he might not be the same old Aaron Rodgers, but he seems to always kind of put on the Superman cape when he gets into that building in Arlington.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't lose in that building, does he?
And that defense is going to need to show out next week, certainly. Okay, still have some of your calls to get to. Also want to hear from Osa Digizua and J. Ron Kurz. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
The big game is here. not want to drop it, or he's going to hand it off. They do not want to drop
Parsons at left tackle again, makes a stunt, and Jones throws it out to the left. Fumble! Recovered in the air at the 20. Run into the end zone by Deron Bland.
Unbelievable play. That is our defensive stop of the game, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. Trayvon Diggs, helmet on the ball, dislodged it, goes in the air. Deron Bland, Johnny on the spot, intercepts it, returns it for a touchdown. First Cowboys defensive score of the year, and Deron Bland picking up where he left off, leading the team in interceptions a year ago, and he's got one to start the 2023 season.
Yeah, really nice hit. Really good eyes by Diggs to see what how the play was going to develop. And, that's what you with Diggs, the turnovers, the cover ability, this is where you get really noticed. If all of a sudden you become a guy that's a tackler,
a complete corner,
a hitter. Yeah, if you're a guy that, if the ball spills to the outside, you're stepping up and making a tackle for 2-yard gain and not letting the thing go for 12 yards and go for a first down. That Diggs is capable. I was on a couple different shows this week talking about Diggs, and I brought up he's capable. We saw him in that Cincinnati game, a third down stop, a fourth down stop, carrying guys across the field. He's a capable player, capable tackler. But then we remember what happened in the 49er game where he just, it's like, whoa,
what's going on here?
But this time you see him, he plays with his eyes, comes up, delivers a hit on a big player, on a big physical player with Barkley. Barkley is not an easy guy to bring down in the open field, but the fact that he was able to get his shoulder in there and get the ball in the air and Bland was in the right spot, that's Dan Quinn putting guys in position to make plays, and that's his defender stepping up and making plays.
Absolutely. Speaking of the defense, Osa Odighizuwa, 2 sacks tonight. After the game, Osa caught up with the media.
7 sacks total for the D-line, 2 for you. What was it about that pass rush tonight that was working so well against these guys?
It was a lot of fun. I feel like everyone, the guys are just winning their one-on-ones. We're rushing as a unit as well. We're just coming together.
What feels different about this unit compared to the last couple of years? You guys were obviously really dominant the last 2 seasons, but does something feel different about the way you guys were able to start off this season?
I feel like we're just picking up where we left off. It's the 3rd year in the system under DQ. I think we're just hitting a little bit faster. We can play faster. We can slow the game down a little bit.
How much easier does it make it feel when you know you have a little extra time with the guys you got behind you?
It feels great. You know what I mean? Shout out to the secondary. They're really doing their thing, and that's how we play complementary football on defense. Just from the front to the back, getting takeaways, getting sacks. That's what it's about. That's why it's fun.
When you guys come out and you see some of those younger guys also getting playing time, but not only doing that, but performing, what does that say about this unit?
That we're deep, from top to bottom. We got a deep defense. If you put guys in there, they're going to make plays.
No doubt. They are deep. They absolutely are.
I remember asking Will McClay this because I saw where Isaiah Land was inactive today for the Colts. And so I had him on my 53, I was breaking down. And I asked Will, I said, hey, did you lose anybody in the claims? And he goes, yeah, we lost Land. I go, damn, I had him on my 53. And he goes, Brian, we got pass rushers.
Yeah.
We got pass rushers.
They sure do.
Don't worry about it. He goes, we got pass rushers. And so, and that's how he felt, and good for him. The pro department's done a really good job. The college scouts have done a really nice job with how they've built this football team. The front office, they had to weather the storm with the whole Zach Martin holdout thing, came up with some funds to make that work. They got Diggs done. They got, you got your right tackle done, Steele done. There's still some work ahead, but this front office and the scouting department deserve a lot of credit for what they've been able to do.
Absolutely. They sure do. And my gosh, the pass rush tonight, Osa as well, a guy that, I was hopeful would break out, and certainly he's aided as everyone.
He showed
with Micah.
Osa showed a lot in the preseason and what he was able to do. The thing that with Osa when he first started was he didn't seem like to me that his body was built to play a full 16-game schedule. He had a college body.
Mm-hmm.
He was good for 12 games and then maybe the bowl game after 3 weeks of rest.
Yeah.
But now I think he could play the 17-game schedule and into the playoffs and be okay.
You can see the transformation he's made just year to year. Yeah. Absolutely, no question. All right, let's go back out to the phones. Let's go to Aaron, line 7 in Keller. Aaron, appreciate your patience. How you doing, sir?
Yes, sir.
great tonight. I got 3 comments. You don't have to comment on anything. First thing is, on the picks, Bassick said they were going to lose this game.
Oh, yeah.
I'll leave it as that. Second comment is, it's great watching the defense over the offense. Third thing is, Dairy Queen needs to get Dan Quinn because we all love Dairy Queen. And I'm gone.
DQ. There you go. I like that. I
I always like the people that just they carry receipts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you carry those receipts. Baskey picked the Giants to win. You know, hell, I think we all picked like kind of a low scoring games or close games.
I went 24-13 Cowboys.
I went 26-24 with the Cowboys having to make a stop. They made a stop, made a bunch of them. But man, listen, you do this long enough, you're going to have receipts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But then if you pick the Cowboys every week, you're a homer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't win.
You turn around. But people will remind you, and I will say this though about people that remind you about not picking the Cowboys. But I had this when I worked at DallasCowboys.com, and I had coaches say this like, "Oh, you picked Seattle to win this week."
Oh.
And I said, yeah. And then I got on that plane, and Seattle would have won the game. And I look at those coaches like, okay, now you want me
now what?
Now you want to come at me about my Seattle pick this week?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, you do this anytime you pick these games. There's a possibility you're not going to pick the right way. And Cowboy fans are like elephants. They have a very good memory.
Sure do. All right, let's go to Sean in Flower Mound. Sean, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Wooly Bully.
What's up, my dude?
Broaddus. How you doing?
Good.
Man, so I just want to point out something. The last game I think we played, San Francisco 49ers, 14 penalties for 89 yards. Not a whole lot of penalties tonight.
No, sure wasn't.
And I can appreciate that. And then, I mean, other thing that I have, Osa, great game. Phone's Fossil, I appreciate you. And then I agree with you on the tight end stuff. I think Hendershot's going to come out and do a great job. And I think we got a good group at tight end.
I appreciate the call, Sean. Yeah, I think the tight end room is much stronger even than it was a year ago with the addition of Schoonmaker and then now Ferguson another year evolved as well. I think they're much better blocking, which they showcased tonight. Receiving, it'll improve throughout the season.
Yes, make those 2 plays, and it's a pretty complete night for your football team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's hit up JJ in Rio. JJ, what's going on? You're on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking my call. Brian, you mentioned in the offseason several times that one of the greatest worries you had is the amount of turnover on the Cowboys offensive staff. A couple of plays or thoughts that you saw tonight that said, hey, you know what, this offensive staff might gel sooner rather than later. And thank you very much for taking my call.
Yeah, I anytime you have a lot of turnover on a coaching staff, there is concern. And tonight, the offense wasn't great. It just wasn't. But the things that gave me some hope was the fact that the creativity with the trips and then running wheel routes with CD off that, the unbalanced line. There's things that you saw there that you're thinking like, okay. And I'm sure when I get to the all-22, there'll be other things that they're having to work without their running back coach.
Yeah.
Jeff Blasco probably he's on medical leave now. So okay, there's something else that you have to deal with. But yeah, I think there were things in training camp that I saw that were creativity I thought was good. That's all I'm asking. You've got to find ways to create separation for Dak Prescott. What did you just do? On the longest pass he threw for the night was a play where they ran 2 guys inside. They ran Ferguson and Cooks inside and CeeDee Lamb around the corner for the wheel. And what happened? Big play.
2 guys run into Ferguson. CeeDee's left wide open.
Created separation. Absolutely created separation there. Needs to be more of that.
I agree. Absolutely. 877-881-1053. Always the number to call. Always the number to text. I saw this from Jory Epstein, our friend who does an excellent job covering this football team. Trayvon Diggs, who had that interception, Trayvon said Aiden asked him, Dad, can you get me an interception ball? And Trayvon said, I'll try. And it just happened. They threw the ball, and I got a forced fumble. So I said, here you go. this is good enough. And he just handed it over to Aiden. And Aiden looked, I mean, hey, if you watched that Hard Knocks episode, Aiden stole the show. But that was a pretty cool moment. And Stephon Diggs, who's playing at the same stadium for the Bills against the Jets tomorrow night.
And Mom's in the stands too,
Whole
right?
fam got to be there to watch that.
Whole fam. Good for them, though. Good for the Diggs family. And good for Diggs. I mean, you know, but the sad thing about it, that was the longest completion the Giants had during the game. But he did a great job of hustling and knocking the ball loose. So if you're going to give up a big play, make sure you make a big play to get the ball back.
And he certainly did. Cowboys get the win, 40-0. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here late night as the Cowboys start the season 1-0. When we come back, we got Jaron Curse audio to get to you. We'll look around the rest of the NFL, put a bow on this one, and get you set, of course, for next week, Cowboys and Jets. Jets playing tomorrow night, as we mentioned, in the Meadowlands against the Buffalo Bills, and nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But we'll get to take a peek of Aaron Rodgers and that Jets team before they head to AT&T Stadium next Sunday afternoon. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Bell Nunnally has been committed.
best in Texas.
Snap to Jones, first down. Pumps and throws it out to Hodgins, and he catches it.